thing I like about this, it says serving our neighborhoods.
That's
and
right.
for those who don't know, some of your experience, professional and legal, Assistant Attorney General of Ohio, Attorney General's Office from 2007 to 2014, specializing in consumer protection, Assistant Legal Counsel on Ohio Lottery Commission from 2014 to 2016, private law practice focusing on criminal defense, consumer protection, and general civil litigation, as well as the chairman of Title Defect Rescission Fund Committee, as well as the representative on the Attorney General's Sunshine Law Task Force.
This is something that most people can't do on their own. And a lot of times when people are having a problem with a cell phone company or a car dealer, the damages aren't great enough that you're going to be able to get an attorney or that it's going to be worth it for an attorney to take your case. So I started getting into this area of consumer law as a way to help people out. And when I got out of law school, I opened up my own practice, and my focus for about the first 3 or 4 years was on consumer protection. And when somebody's in front of me, if we're dealing with a minor problem, I try to give them time to get it worked out. I try to give them resources and help to work it out, as opposed to just saying, yeah, here's a big fine that you're never going to be able to pay off, or here's jail time that's, if you serve it, it's not going to do you any good when you get out. You're still going to have the same problems facing you. So I think that early experience is what's helped me out in my current role.
I can tell that, and before the professor chimes in on anything that's on his mind, one of those things that I'm looking at, representative on the Attorney General's Sunshine Law Task Force, and there are a lot of different, we'll say, politicians, different organizations and entities. A lot of complaints go in that people are not transparent enough or what have you. What was your work like doing that?
So that work, I actually learned a lot about the Ohio Sunshine Laws and open meetings laws, and it was our capacity at the Attorney General's office at that time was more advisory. So I would go and I spoke to a couple city councils about just about the act in general, or generally when people had questions they could call us and ask those questions to us. And it's interesting. Some entities are incredibly transparent, and some either by design or just because of a lack of knowledge are not. And a lot of times you'll find smaller municipalities, like really small municipalities, have a harder time being compliant with those laws. And part of that's just you've got people that have been there for 20 or 30 years, and they're just not up to date on the laws. So while I was there, we were trying to get everybody up to date and make things more transparent.
I see.
It's difficult as a judge because there's so few things you're able to talk about. We can't take stances on issues. We're not supposed to say I'm for this or I'm against this. Because you always have to be impartial when things come in front of you. So you should not be prejudging cases. So sometimes it's difficult to get out in the community and because you can't really have a platform. But our slogan, serving our neighborhoods, it's one of the first things that I noticed when I moved into Cleveland, and then when I became a judge was all the unique neighborhoods in the city, and whether it's Mount Pleasant or whether it's Glenville or Detroit Shoreway area or West Park, everybody's got a unique neighborhood identity. So I really enjoy. It's one of the pleasures of campaigning is I get to go out and see all these different unique personalities of neighborhoods. And so, for instance, at the hip hop event, when I'm there, I like to stay and get a flavor for where I'm at, and I'm not a big fan of just kind of going through, shaking hands, hello, hi, how are you? I like to get to know people. It's how you get to know the problems and concerns of neighbors who are in front of you. But the other reason I stayed is because I'm a musician, and
okay.
So anytime there's music anywhere, I like to stay, and I love all genres of music. So it was I was excited to see some of the performances that were there.
I got you. Ed.
But when I see people in front of me, I'm always thinking, what if that was me?
Gotcha.
So when people are standing in front of me, I think, what would be going through my mind right now? And especially municipal court, because the cases are, for the most part, we do have some serious cases, but the majority of them are less serious, and you don't need to be as formal And it could be somebody's first experience with the court system or the criminal justice system, and it doesn't have to be a terrible experience. You know, we can get people back on track and out of there. And I always like to say that, you know, my goal is to get people out of my courtroom in better shape than when they came in.
I was surprised when I saw you with the U.S. Marine hat on.
Mm-hmm.
You look too soft to be a Marine. And to hear you say you was a Marine, man, I was a big red one, Army infantryman, and I just thought, I say, somebody must have gave him that hat.
No.
Because you just look too soft to be a Marine.
No, I went through Parris Island. I earned the hat.
You went through Parris Island.
Parris Island boot camp, yes.
No doubt about it. U.S. Marine.
Correct.
You couldn't handle the Big Red One, 1st Infantry Division. I served in the your dad was in the Vietnam War.
Correct.
I served in the Vietnam War, and so you were actually a Marine.
That's right.
Well, I congratulate you, and so you want so you think you deserve the veteran vote because your daddy was a veteran, I'm a veteran, and you U.S. Marine. If nothing else, you got some brownie points there. So are you encouraging? What is your message to the veterans why they should vote for you, Michael?
Well, so one of the best things about our court is, you know, kind of to wrap up everything I've said, is some of our specialized treatment dockets. And one of the things that I participate in at the court is our veterans treatment docket. I'm actually in the Justice Center. There's about 60 trial court judges. There's only 2 of us that have served, myself and Judge Michael Jackson, who's at the Common Pleas Court. But we have, and both the Common Pleas Court and the Municipal Court have a veterans treatment docket. And I think it's so important to have that for veterans. And it's essentially a combination of a drug court and a mental health docket, because you have veterans coming in that have both of those issues. In fact, I was just at a terrific conference in Maryland that was talking about, they had a whole track focused on veterans treatment dockets. And, you know, one of the things that they talked about was the fact that, you know, putting veterans in a traditional drug court or in a traditional mental health docket doesn't always work, because, you know, no matter what, when you have a veteran, they've been through boot camp, they've been through the rigorous training, they've been, you know, they've been at least at some point in their life through a disciplined regimen.
Yes, sir.
And to then put them with, you know, maybe 18 or 19-year-old kids that have never had that in their life, it's actually caused some veterans to fail in those other systems. So the establishment of these veterans treatment dockets is hugely important to any veteran, whether they're Vietnam era, Gulf War era, combat, non-combat. You know, like I said, everybody's been through that training, and I think I'm somebody that's got that same experience. And having been through the you know, obviously Marine Corps boot camp, 13 weeks at Parris Island, you know, I've been there, and I think I bring that experience and with me. People can look up at the bench and see somebody who's been through some of the same things they've been through.
Yes, sir. So you are a friend of the veterans in your court, right?
Absolutely.
And so we should vote for you.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. I believe in that. Listen, my phone lines are lit up. Who's on the phone line? Talk to me. Yes, hello there.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, yes. I have a question for the judge.
Yes, ma'am.
If the people vote for you, what are you going to do different when you get in the seat, if you want the people to vote?
Well, so what I'd actually like to do is keep doing what I'm doing. So I'm on the bench right now, and I've had a lot of success on the bench. In the year plus that I've been there, I've established a good reputation with the attorneys who practice in front of me, both the prosecutors and the defense attorneys, which is important. You know, it's easy to please one side, but I think it takes a good personality and you know, to be able to run an efficient courtroom that both sides are happy with. You know, I make fair obviously I consider my decisions fair, and I do my best to make the courtroom run efficiently so that people aren't there forever. Like I said, a lot of these are lower level cases, and these are people who have to get back to work. They have to, you know, they don't need to take an entire day off to handle their speeding ticket. So I hope to continue doing the great things that we've been able to do so far.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for the phone call. Listen, this is very important to me when of all the people running, I prefer to bring on judges because I truly think that judges are intertwined with our lives more than almost anybody else. You know, either they set you free, cost you, make you pay fines, whatever. You know, judges to me, in my life, they've intertwined in my life more than other public officials. That's why I like to have judges on to find out their heart, where they're really coming from, and so we're glad to have the brother on. Who's on?
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to ask the judge what he would advocate in terms of the disproportionate number of black people that are prosecuted in these high bonds, and whether or not he thinks the bonds are high, whether he thinks many of us are maliciously prosecuted, and whether or not the legal system has gotten out of hand in terms of what they're doing to black people. See, too many black people are facing these judges, and it's become...
I'm with you. You gave him 4 questions.
Okay, the question is, what is he, if he continues to be a judge, what does he intend to do about blacks being maliciously prosecuted? These bonds, see, when a bond...
Okay, wait a minute, Kathy. Bonds,
malicious prosecutions, police not being held to the same standard as blacks murdered by them.
One more, Kathy. Yeah,
okay, and the last question is, is he going to be fair to black people?
All right, good. Let's hold it right there. That's 4 great questions.
I can get off, can I now?
Yes, ma'am. Now listen to his comments. You got it all, Judge.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I can start with the bond question. And, you know, I think that the Cleveland Municipal Court has been at the forefront of addressing the bond situation, how bonds, high or even relatively low bonds, can disproportionately affect African American communities and certainly poorer communities. You could give a low bond to 2 different people, and one person's able to get out, you know, because they have a great job and they've got money, they're wealthy. Another person has no job, they're not able to, no matter how low you set the bond, they're not able to get out. So one of the things that our court has been doing is we've been working with a group called the Arnold Foundation, and they are coming into the court and they're setting up a whole new system for addressing bonds, where they're giving us more information than what we currently have. And for instance, the biggest piece of information that I'm missing when I set a person's bond is, has this person missed court before? You know, the offense that they're charged or to allegedly have committed is one thing, the seriousness of the offense, but you know, our 2 primary focuses on setting bonds are protecting the community and making sure that the person comes back to court. So, you know, if somebody has 10 prior misdemeanor cases, but they've always come back to court, you know, we don't have to worry about that second factor as much. So the new information that we're going to be getting is going to address a lot of that about whether people, because that's the biggest thing I'm wondering when I see somebody, are they going to come back to court? Because you know, as long as they're coming back to court and they're not committing any other offenses, there's no reason for a bond. But we don't have a crystal ball, and we're not sure, you know, that's going to happen. So that's the first issue in addressing bonds. I do, of course, believe that the bonds that I set are fair. I take a lot of time when I'm in the arraignment room, and about once every 3 or 4 months, we have a rotation in our arraignment room where we handle some of the felony cases. And I do my best with the information that I'm given to set appropriate bonds and set bonds, you know, low enough so that people can get out and will ensure that they come back to court. You know, as far as disproportionate prosecution, that's a tough question, and that's one that you know, one of the problems with the court is our workload is driven by what's put in front of us. So we don't have a say where we go say, you know, hey, go out and patrol this community or this community and you know, go write tickets here or there. So, you know, I do see that there are a disproportionate amount of African Americans in our court. In fact, one day I was in that felony arraignment room and I looked out, and that's all I saw. And I remember that day because I thought, you know, this isn't right. You know, I don't have a solution for that. That's a citywide problem, and perhaps one that will be addressed at the when you hear your mayoral candidates start debating.
Judge, you know what? I sincerely believe that you are a judge with a heart. You know, you just strikes me as that, and you've been on the bench for a while, for a short while, but you've had a chance to really see this thing as it is. And you could fool me, but looking you in the eye, I think you are a judge with a heart and compassion. Of course, you have to administer the law. We understand that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's automatic. But it seems like to me you're the kind of judge that we might want on the bench, or you might. Let me put it personal. You know, from time to time, I admit I go before the court on several occasions, and you might be the kind of judge I might want to go before and put my mercy on him. I might be able to come out of that. I just see that. I might be wrong. You might lock me up, but I just see that, Judge. I just see that, okay?
Well, one thing I understand is that people make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, and you know, I'll admit it. I've been in front of a couple of municipal courts on some traffic offenses.
Yes, sir.
And that's why I think I said earlier, I always think of the person standing in front of me and think, you know, what would I want this, you know, how would I want this judge to treat me if that was me? So I do my best to come at the job with empathy and compassion for people who are in front of me.
I got a serious question and a funny question. Which one do you want first?
Let's go serious first.
Okay. You said you like to really get to know people when you meet them, when you meet someone, instead of just, you know, casually meeting people. So that kind of led me to thinking that, how do you balance between, because you said you couldn't really take stances on issues like that,
Right.
but you seem to want to meet people, know their concerns, and know their problems. How do you balance that?
So I'll give you an example, and one of the things I like doing is listening to different communities and in different neighborhoods. I went to a very small neighborhood meeting in Gordon, in the Detroit Shoreway neighborhood the other day, and so I go there and I'm able to listen to their concerns. And you know, one of their concerns, which I didn't know about, it was on Detroit Road. I drive past it all the time. Is there's an old Catholic church that closed down, and they're having problems there with prostitution and with drugs, and with homeless congregating there. And so that's something now that I know, and I can't, you know, like you said, I can't take a stance, but now when somebody's in front of me, if I know that that's where they were from, now I've got a picture of how it's affecting the community, and now we might, you know, we might be able to fashion a better remedy. And like the homeless problem is one of the hardest ones to address, because a lot of times they might be charged with a minor misdemeanor, which is a maximum fine of $150, and if you're sitting in jail, you get credit for $50 a day.
And I'm going to add this question. What do you think about the illegal laws against feeding the homeless, like in other states and stuff, if you're allowed to say so?
Well, and I think I'm guessing you're referring to the suit that was filed by the ACLU, which essentially found that some of Cleveland's ordinances were unconstitutional because they prohibited free speech. And you know, that I don't think Cleveland's. In fact, from talking to some of the councilmen, I believe that they're revamping those ordinances, and they're doing their best to comply with that decision. And I think the way it stands is, and the way that decision came out was, you can only make it a crime if it's persistent, if it's harassing somebody, but it's you know, it's my understanding is nobody's going to be charging me for just saying, hey, you know, will you give me $1? Will you give me money? You know, it's the persistent and when it becomes a threat or dangerous. But you know, what I was getting at was, a lot of times by the time some of those cases get in front of me, unfortunately somebody's already sat in jail for 3 days, and so a lot of times their attorney may say, you know what, just plead no contest to this. You'll get credit for your time served. And certainly with homeless cases, a lot of times I find that they're indigent and they're unable to pay court costs, and I waive them. And if I don't do that, then even though they've done their 3 days in jail and they've paid off their fine, that case is going to keep following them around, and there's going to be eventually a warrant out for them, and they're going to get, you know, and it's not worth it. But one of the new things our court has is a community court, and that's set up to address some of those problems, where it's going to set people up with housing advocates, job skills advocates and try to solve, you know, it's aimed at solving some of the problems that lead to homelessness.
Okay, what do you think about, I've heard this where people say judges should spend an amount of time in jail before they become a judge so they can understand, have a somewhat better understanding of giving out a sentence.
No, I'm not a fan of that.
Okay. and my last question is, we had a lot of judges on the show. I never got to ask this. What do judges think of the judge shows on TV?
Oh.
Do you look at it like, oh, they don't know what they're doing, it's just entertainment, or?
I view it as entertainment. I remember, it's funny you asked that because it was only a month or two ago. I happened to be flipping through the channels and one of those shows came on, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna watch this for a few minutes, and it was just frustrating because somebody was trying to tell their story, and the judge kept interrupting them, and you know, that's why it was, you know, it's I mean, you can see how our society has gone to some of these entertainment shows in general, you know, with a lot of these reality shows, and people seem to be drawn to bickering and fighting and name calling, and that's. You know, that seems to be what draws attention. I think that's what some of these judge shows are. I think they're not a real good view of what we should be doing or what we are doing.
Okay.
So,
And Professor.
Judge Sliwinski,
yes.
this is the time when we must part. But before we part, you have 3 minutes to give the best closing argument. Listen, I'm looking at your resume here. Good college man, good Marine.
Right.
Shouldn't be no problem for you to convince the millions of listeners. Listen, the people that listen to this show, as Judge Cassidy and some of the others, they vote. Give your closing argument to our millions of listeners right now why they should vote for you, Michael.
All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is, because you called me soft, I'm going to start working out a little more. I got to make sure that this hat fits. But no, you know, and you can look at any candidates. I mean, there's a lot of races out there, and everybody's got a good resume. You know, everybody puts their best foot forward on the resume. I think the one of the advantages I've had is that I've been on the bench long enough to establish a reputation. And you could have a person who's got a terrific resume and is a terrible judge. And you can have a person who, you know, barely squeaked through law school, but they have the personality and the compassion to be a good judge. And I think that's something that can't necessarily be taught. I think it's something that I bring to the bench. I think you know, ultimately, I think you have to be a people person to be on the municipal bench, not necessarily to be on the common pleas bench or the federal bench or any of the others, but the municipal bench is the people's court.
It's the people's court, yes,
And
sir.
it's something that I enjoy because I enjoy being able to connect with people and being able to talk to people. And so, you know, like you said, you can look at my resume. I believe I have the legal chops to be there, but I think I also have the interpersonal skills to be a good judge and to continue serving the people of Cleveland as I've done for the last year and as I hope to continue doing for a long time.
You are a people person. We see you in the neighborhood. You're not afraid to mingle with the people.
Not at all.
And we appreciate that, Judge, no doubt about it.